Mickey Rourke, a name synonymous with gritty, intense performances on the silver screen. While Rourke's acting career in the 1980s made him a Hollywood leading man, he would raise eyebrows when he made a decision to pursue professional boxing in the 1990s. This decision got a lot of people talking, both fans and critics.
Young Mickey Rourke.
Okay,
Young Mickey Rourke and old. There's two different humans. Young Mickey Rourke and old Mickey Rourke. Young Mickey Rourke was like this super serious, amazing actor who did fantastic films, like really good.
Angel Heart.
Yeah, Angel Heart. What else? He did
So what
a
happened? I
bunch.
thought. So didn't he get like in a motorcycle accident and bonk his head? Is that what
No,
happened?
he became a boxer. He boxed as an amateur when he was young, and then when he was an actor, I think, if I had to guess, and I'm gonna just paraphrase, and I apologize if I got it wrong, but I think he felt like Hollywood and acting, and I know he's been quoted on this, was so fake and so, with lack of a better term, feminine. It was so soft and bullshit that he felt like he had to do something real again. So he started boxing.
Mickey Rourke's journey into boxing wasn't a whim. It was rooted in his youth and tied to a deep personal struggle. Growing up in a rough environment in Miami, Rourke found himself falling in love with the sport at a gym, specifically at the famed 5th Street Gym in Miami Beach, a piece of boxing holy ground where legends like Muhammad Ali honed their craft. As a teenager, Rourke took up amateur boxing to channel his aggression and to escape a turbulent and abusive home life. At age 12, he won his first amateur bout as a flyweight, showing early promise with a reported record of 27 wins and 3 losses, including 12 first-round knockouts. This amateur career was cut short by concussions, including one from a sparring session with former world welterweight champion Luis Rodriguez in 1969, forcing him to step away from the sport temporarily. Rourke's amateur record also faced scrutiny. His stepfather and boxing figures like Angelo Dundee and Bryan Adams were quick to try and shut down claims that Rourke competed in the Golden Gloves, which Addis asserting Rourke never fought in the ring during his youth, calling his boxing stories fantasies. This cast doubt on Rourke's narrative of being a legitimate amateur standout, suggesting he embellished his early boxing credentials to bolster his pro career credibility. Whether or not the record was legitimate, it was enough to get Rourke through the door into the pro boxing world. By the early 1990s, Rourke was at a crossroads, a successful actor known for films like 9½ Weeks, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, and Angel Heart. He was battling personal demons, drug addiction, a failing marriage, and a growing disdain for Hollywood's superficiality. In his own words, Rourke felt he was self-destructing and had no respect for himself as an actor. Boxing, a sport that demands raw discipline and physicality, became a way to reclaim his sense of self. Returning to the ring in 1991 at age 38, Rourke saw it a test of his mettle.
Garfield, Robert Ryan, Kirk Douglas, and Sly Stallone all put on the gloves and stepped in the ring to do bloody battle, but the punches were false, and so was the blood. Enter Mickey Rourke, a real, live, tough guy with a thirst for reality. The 34-year-old actor found it last week in War Memorial Stadium in Fort Lauderdale against a tattooed auto mechanic named Steve Powell. Chris Fowler was at ringside.
Life imitates art, imitates life, imitates art, imitates life, imitates art. Mickey Rourke had fought as an amateur 26 times and an actor in Homeboy, which bypassed theaters and went straight to video. But for 20 years, he dreamed of a real pro fight, throwing and taking real punches, far away from the falseness and pretensions of Hollywood.
This is something I do for myself, and I don't do it for anybody else. I do it for me because it's a time where I can feel like a man. And lots of times in the movie business, you're treated like such a, like something else,
For For boxers, real life is sweat boxes like Miami Beach's legendary 5th Street Gym in Rourke's hometown neighborhood.
Over the years, the list of fighters who have trained in this shrine to boxing is incredible. Muhammad Ali, back when he was Cassius Clay, Leonard Duran, Hagler Hearns, Aaron Pryor, Larry Holmes. So we asked folks here how Mickey Rourke's boxing skills stack up with that crowd.
Mickey hits real hard.
He's got a really strong left hand.
He's strength of the box, his right hand.
Kind of sticks his right hand, paws it out, and then all of a sudden hits you with a big left hand, and he's strong.
Not the fastest hands, but when they connect, they can do some damage.
I have seen faster hands, yes.
A surreal circus surrounded Rourke's debut in Fort Lauderdale. Fight folks, showbiz types, and Euro paparazzi, all curious to see if Rourke's tough guy image is for real.
Just because we're actors doesn't mean we can't do things.
Mickey Rourke is not a fighter. He's a hell of an actor. We're going to find out how good a fighter he is tonight.
After 2 decades of pretend, this was Rourke's fantasy realized. For foe Steve Powell, these were his 15 minutes of fame. The local mechanic had split 8 previous pro fights and earned his nickname The Hammer, not for his skill as a puncher, but as a roofer. For 4 rounds, Rourke wrestled, pushed, punched, taunted, and basically beat up Powell. Despite 2 penalty points, Rourke won a unanimous decision, but not many hearts.
Put me out of the ring 2 or 3 times. I mean, that's excuse me. People can say all they want, but I got the to get up there and do it, so you know.
Tasting the existential truth of boxing, its concrete simplicity, is primarily self-therapy for a man often at odds with the make-believe of movie land.
But it's just something I needed to get back to for me. So maybe I can continue doing the acting.
Sounds like, I mean, the reason you continue acting is because of those obligations, and if you could, you'd just jump into this full time.
Oh, you bet your ass, yeah, I would, yeah.
This wasn't about chasing world titles to Mickey. It was about finding something real in a life that felt increasingly hollow and performative. Rourke's professional boxing career, spanning from 1991 to 1994, was short but notable for its audacity. Trained by Hall of Famer Freddie Roach at the 5th Street Gym and later at the Outlaw Boxing Club in Los Angeles, his debut on May 23, 1991 against Steve Powell at the War Memorial Auditorium in Fort Lauderdale was a gritty affair. Despite a hand injury and a hostile crowd of Vietnam veterans booing his showboating, Rourke gutted out a unanimous decision win over 4 rounds. One of his most high-profile bouts came in 1994 in Japan, where he fought Sean Gibbons, a journeyman who later became a prominent boxing manager. The fight was a spectacle, with Rourke earning a reported $1 million for a bout that lasted less than 30 seconds, ending in a knockout that many later questioned for its legitimacy. Rourke's ability to draw crowds was undeniable, as seen when he appeared on the cover of World Boxing magazine in June 1994, a testament to his marketability despite his novice status. He also sparred with elite fighters like James Toney and Tommy Morrison, holding his own enough to earn respect from some in the boxing world, even if his skills didn't match his heart. This would be his last fight for 20 years. The early 2000s showed glimmers of a career revival. His role as a menacing, flamboyant villain in Once Upon a Time in Mexico garnered some attention, showcasing his talent and charisma when paired with the right material. Then came Sin City, where Rourke portrayed the disfigured anti-hero Marv. The film, directed by Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller, was a commercial and critical success. Rourke's performance was widely praised as it introduced him to a new generation of viewers. Yet, despite this high point, Rourke did not immediately return to the A-list. He continued to take roles in indie films and genre fare like Domino, Killshot, and Immortals, with mixed results. The true turning point came when Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler in 2008. The role of Randy the Ram Robinson, an aging and broken down pro wrestler, mirrored Mickey Rourke's own life story and allowed him to channel his pain and experience into a hauntingly real performance. The film was a critical triumph, earning Rourke a Golden Globe, a BAFTA, and an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. This performance revitalized his career and earned him new respect in the industry. He followed it up with roles in major films such as Iron Man 2, where he played the villain Whiplash, and The Expendables, where he delivered a memorable monologue as a haunted mercenary. Rourke's post-boxing years were marked by a scattershot of low-budget films, direct-to-video releases, and largely forgettable roles. He appeared in movies like Exit and Red and Bullet, the latter of which he co-wrote and starred in. While some of these films gained cult followings, they did little to rehabilitate his professional reputation. His erratic behavior, trouble with the law, and on-set difficulties contribute to a perception of unreliability, making studios hesitant to cast him. Rourke continued to live largely on the fringes of the industry, struggling with depression, substance abuse, and personal demons. All of this will culminate in Rourke's getting a spot on WrestleMania, where he would drop Chris Jericho. Between
And I go back to the dressing room and I get a text from my cousin Chad who's like, hey man, why is Mickey Rourke calling you out at the SAG Awards red carpet? I'm like, what? Who are you talking? Mickey Rourke? What are you talking about? It's right when The Wrestler was hot. It was the movie. Still one of the best movies you can ever see. And I was like, Mickey Rourke called me out? Like, why? And he sent me a clip of it or something, and he's like, Chris Jericho better watch it at WrestleMania. I'm like, and that's when I think the word had gotten around so that Vince called me into his office and said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to have a match with Mickey Rourke at WrestleMania. It's going to be an attraction, which is what I said. Certain matches at Mania are earmarked to be the classics, or at least given the shot to be. Others are on the show just to give everybody a reason to be on the card, and others are attractions. Ronda Rousey this year was the attraction. This was going to be Mickey Rourke versus Jericho. I was like, I can have a match with this guy. We can train. He obviously knows the concept of wrestling. He has just done some wrestling. We'll be able to I can do a match with him, with bells and whistles, etc., etc. And then because he called me out at the SAG Awards, his agents flipped out because I heard a story around that time that there's a movie called Norbit with Eddie Murphy, and he had done a movie called Dreamgirls, and he was up for an Oscar. And right in the middle of Oscar season, this Norbit came out, which was very racist, and he's playing like a fat lady, and it was just very dick and fart joke humor. And the Academy was like, we can't award this guy the best actor because he's in this dick and fart joke awful movie. And that's kind of what happened with Mickey. We're like, you're not going to win an Oscar if you're involved with the WWE, the dirty scumbags of the WWE. You can't do this match, you have to pull out. And Vince was so mad because he wasn't going to announce the match until after the Oscars. But Rourke, whatever happened, I think he got excited, maybe he was a little loaded, he announced himself, and Vince was like, I knew as soon as he announced it, the match was off.
So they were mad at him for letting the cat out of the bag, and they pulled him off the show, which was a drag because it was like, once again, I was excited, and then it went away like basically in one day. So I did the Larry King show, which was a really big chat show in the States, and Mickey Rourke was on via satellite, and Vince told me, go on the show and try and goad him into doing the match. Try and get him so mad that he goes, my agents, I'm going to do this match. So I was like, okay. If you guys go watch on YouTube, I am the biggest ever. And the best part was I was backstage at the Rosemont Horizon, the Allstate Arena in Chicago, at a Metallica concert. I was going to see Metallica, like, Vince wants you to do this satellite interview. I was like, I'm going to Metallica. And they're like, we'll sit you up backstage or whatever. But I had a couple drinks too, so I was
I think, like I said, Mickey's performance was immaculate. He made no mistakes, but I think he did make a mistake on the red carpet at the SAG Awards when he mentioned WrestleMania and called me out, because if he got his wish and had a confrontation with me at WrestleMania, I think the ending of the Jericho-Rourke movie would not turn out very well for Mr. Rourke as it did in The Wrestler.
A challenge.
Yeah.
Well, Mickey?
Not really a challenge. I think Mickey kind of talked a little bit out of line. That's not a challenge, I'm just answering. There's a lot of a difference between playing a wrestler in a movie and actually being one in real life.
And I think Mickey was given some bad advice in saying my name on the red carpet. And if you get your wish, Mr. Rourke, you will not be, you will learn things that you never learned in playing a wrestler in a movie.
Yeah. Mr. Rourke, you may counter.
I think I'm hearing what the man's saying. Listen, I was visiting his world. He does his thing. He does his thing very well. And perhaps I did put my foot in my mouth. And
would you
I got nothing but respect for him.
But he's still, because if you know anything, Mickey Rourke, he was a big star. He went off the rails, and this was his big comeback. He did The Wrestler, then he did Iron Man 2. He did a couple other things, and he went off the rails again. But for a while, he was saying, this is my second chance. I'm not going to blow this. So he was sticking to the script. Don't do the magic. Don't do the magic. So, and I say afterwards to Vince, I said, what'd you think? He goes, oh, you're way too stiff on him. I said, you told me to be stiff. Not that stiff. Come on, Chris. That Mickey Rourke does show up for that match. He's allowed to be there. He's already lost the best actor, so he should have just done the match anyways, but whatever. And he is a former Golden Gloves boxer, so he's going to be watching from the crowd. He's going to come in the ring after. He's going to punch me in the face. Hollywood hero gets the victory, whatever it is. So I show up once again for the rehearsal beforehand, and Rourke is in the ring. And once again, this is a long stadium, so I can see that he's in the ring. And I see our WWF PR person coming towards me. And she's like, I'm like, hey, how's it going? She goes, Mickey Rourke is furious at you. Me? Why? Because of your interview on Larry King Live. I said, well, did you tell him I was just working? She goes, no. I said, you're the worst press agent ever. I see Mickey, and so I walk in. I'm trying to be cool, like, gives me the worst fake Hollywood hug ever. Like, hey, bro, good to see you. And I was like, so we're kind of going over what we're going to do, and I realized, like, he's not having it. Like, he's just not paying attention to what I'm saying. He's pissed off. He's angry. So I finally said, listen, Mickey, you know at the Larry King show that I was just trying to do an angle. He goes, no, you weren't. I said, yeah, I was just trying to, push your buttons and see if I get a reaction. He goes, no, you weren't. He goes, in boxing, you say those things, you're looking for a fight. I said, in boxing, that might be true, but I said, this is wrestling. He goes, what's the difference? I said, let me get this straight. You were just up for a Best Actor award for playing a wrestler, and yet when I came on playing a wrestler, you didn't figure out the difference? And he goes, you were acting? I said, yes. He goes, so I was up for the Best Acting award, and you outacted me. He goes, come here.
And then Rourke came in at the end and punched me in the face and, gets the celebrity,
Rourke enjoyed a brief renaissance in mainstream Hollywood. However, he remained a divisive figure, often clashing with directors, producers, and co-stars. His return to Sin City and A Dame to Kill For was highly anticipated, but failed to replicate the success of the original, both commercially and critically. Despite his newfound relevance, Rourke's choices remained erratic and his career did not fully stabilize. He turned down or lost out on several high-profile roles, reportedly due to disagreements or personal conflicts. Nonetheless, his acting chops remained undeniable when given the right role. This is when Rourke would elect to repeat the cycle. He had conquered Hollywood and began to see himself on the outs again. So what was his next step? It's time to get back in the ring. At age 62, Rourke announced that he was returning to the ring for the first time in 20 years. Selecting Moscow as the location for the exhibition fight, he positioned boxing as a personal cure that saved him from himself. He had recently lost his dog, who was his longtime companion, and cited the grief as yet another reason for the in-ring return. Rourke would drop 30 pounds to make the fight happen. Now I know what you're thinking. Who exactly is going to be set to fight a 60-year-old man who has spent the last 20 years acting and before that had a questionable record to begin with? Enter Elliot Seymour. Seymour was a former California Golden Gloves champion, but his professional record stood at a disappointing 1 win and 9 losses headed into the match. He was 33 years younger than his opponent at only 29 years of age. Come Boxing Day, the dressing room for Rourke had been outfitted with a shrine in honor of Saints, his recently passed Chihuahua dog. It was a little odd, but it was an interesting sight. This comeback fight in Moscow against Elliot Seymour was yet another highlight. Though mired in controversy, Rourke looks surprisingly fit for his age. Stopped Seymour in the second round via TKO, a moment he described as saving him from personal turmoil. These fights, while not against top-tier opponents, were still boxing matches that Rourke was able to garner some publicity from. The fighters were both paid undisclosed amounts for the Moscow bout, and this would mark the end of Mickey Rourke in boxing. But it wasn't the last time we would hear of the fight. Days later, Seymour would tell TMZ he was paid $15,000 to lose the fight to Rourke in round 2. He would say that Rourke didn't know about it, and this was all on other people other than Mickey.
But he told me, he's like, yeah, we're going to pay you 10 grand to go over to Moscow and fight Mickey, and we want you to take a fall in the second.
So prior to going over to Moscow, you knew who Mickey Rourke was?
Yeah, of course. It's Mickey Rourke. I'd heard about him. I'd seen his movies. I'm a fan of his. I like him. Yeah, I definitely knew who he was. Mickey was always super cool, super professional. Paid me for the sparring. I never had any issues with him. Very, very nice with me. He's a good guy. Mickey's a stand-up guy. I think he's a nice man. Great actor. He didn't have anything to do with, the fix being in. That was all his people. Being a powerful person, you have a lot of people that are tissing up to you for various different reasons. So, I would say to take a look at the inner circle, but other than that, that's it.
Oddly enough, Seymour was the only person Rourke fought with a traceable record, and this fight doesn't appear on either's as it was deemed an exhibition. Rourke's boxing career was never far from controversy, with questions about the legitimacy of these fights dogging his record. The most damning accusations centered on fight fixing. His 1994 bout in Japan was called out by his own stepfather, Eugene Addis, who claimed Rourke's opponent took a dive after a punch missed by 6 inches. The physical toll of boxing added another layer of controversy. Rourke's face, once a symbol of Hollywood charm, was ravaged by injuries: broken nose, split tongue, compressed cheekbone, and damaged ribs requiring extensive reconstructive surgery. His 2009 admission to the Daily Mail that he went to the wrong guy for surgery sparked debates about the cost of his boxing obsession.
He started sparring with James Toney and a bunch of other guys, a bunch of legit boxers. And from what I heard, James Toney used to just touch him up every day. And, of course, you don't want to be that guy. You can't hang. So he's in there taking fucking jabs to the face and right hands to the face and left hooks to the face and uppercuts to the face. And his face got deformed.
With some seeing his altered appearance as a tragic consequence of chasing a dangerous dream. These surgeries, coupled with his erratic behavior and outspoken criticism of Hollywood, painted Rourke as a self-destructive figure, a narrative that overshadowed his in-ring achievements. The public's view of Rourke's boxing career was a mixed bag, shaped by his celebrity status and the sport's unforgiving nature. In the early 1990s, boxing purists scoffed at Rourke's return to the ring, seeing it as a stunt by a washed-up actor desperate for relevance. His showboating, wearing Versace-tailored shorts and entering to Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine drew boos from crowds, like the Vietnam veterans in Fort Lauderdale who chanted, "Mickey sucks." Online forums echoed this sentiment, with users calling his fights embarrassing and comparing him unfavorably to modern celebrity boxers like Jake Paul. Yet, Rourke also garnered admiration in Japan, where his charisma and Hollywood allure made him a fan favorite. Japan will always have a soft spot for any celebrity willing to get in a ring. His 2014 Moscow fight, despite the fixing allegations, was celebrated by some as a showcase, with Russian media praising his comeback as a story of redemption. For many fans, especially those who followed his acting, Rourke's boxing was seen as an extension of a rebellious persona. Rourke has always tried to cultivate the image of a man who defied Hollywood's rules to pursue a brutal, authentic craft. His role in The Wrestler, where he played a washed-up wrestler mirroring his own struggles, resonated deeply with a lot of people, causing many to be captivated by his fights, regardless of the fixing allegations. However, the media often focused on the spectacle rather than the substance. Mainstream outlets fixated on his altered appearance, fueling public fascination with his, as they would say, unrecognizable face. Social media amplified this, with posts on X noting his Golden Gloves background but forever questioning his pro-career's legitimacy. The public had made up their minds on Rourke. Mickey Rourke's boxing career was a wild chapter in a life defined by risk and reinvention. Driven by a need to reclaim his identity, Rourke returned to the sport of his youth, achieving an undefeated record that, while impressive on paper, was clouded by accusations of fixed fights and exaggerated amateur credentials. Many also say his time in boxing contributed to his drastic change in appearance, costing him more and more roles. He stepped into a world where one bad punch can change everything, and for that, he earned a grudging respect from some in the boxing community. Rourke's boxing career, much like his life, was messy, polarizing, and unforgettable. In the end, it was one more testament to a man who fought as much against himself as any opponent.